Hi, I'm back with this again. I've got the sump removed on the Fiat 500. Just wanted to give you an indication of what I'd done, what obstacles were in my way, and that'll hopefully help make your own decision when doing it yourself. So as you can see, the sump's removed. In the middle here, there's like a baffle inside the sump. So the way I done it is I actually removed the support arm here. Remove the support arm, and with a lot of wiggling and perseverance, I was able to get it off. So what I actually found in the way, firstly, when you get the sump loose and drop it down, it's hitting on the exhaust, obviously, as you can see here, but also it has the oil pump strainer. What I also found whenever I had the sump down trying to get clearance, I had to actually rotate the crank at the end position here to allow access for the sump to come past the exhaust. Once I got it past the exhaust, then this was hitting on the baffle on the inside of the sump. Now that's okay when you're taking the sump off, but when you're putting the sump on and the sump is covered in sealer, then you'll be running into a different problem. So obviously I have mine off. I'm going to be refitting mine the way it is, but you know, it depends. If you're experienced technician or you're experienced working on cars, you might want to try it this way. If you're not experienced, it might be easier taking the exhaust manifold off just for access. With the exhaust manifold off and the exhaust off, it'll only be a matter of dropping the oil sump down and there shouldn't be an issue. It means that whenever you're putting the sump in, none of the sealer will be took off by bits of the engine. So with that in mind, I'll give you a wee quick walkthrough of what I actually had to remove to get it to this stage. So obviously, firstly, there's 4 screws along here. They're obviously wee torque screws. They're wee 30 torque screws, and they have these wee washers set in behind. So just as you're taking the screws out, grab the wee washers from in behind. The screws here that come out can corrode quite badly, so when you're doing it, I would recommend using a ratchet just to work them free, and when refitting them, put a wee bit of copper grease on them. So to take the bumper off, I would take those screws out at the top. Similar screws along the bottom here, and one at the far side. The inner guard here would have to come out. It's just a number of star screws in the inner guard here, a couple there. There's actually an inspection cover here which had to come off as well to allow access. There's 3 bolts here, 1, 2, 3, which allow the arm to be taken out here, and then the front side of the arm you can see there's 2 here and there's 2 above that position. I'm taking the bumper off. There's a screw comes up through here. As you can see, mine was seized and I had to put a anti-slip device on it. Once I had the screw out of there, there's these 1, 2, 3 wee plastic clips. When you're taking them off, just persevere with them because they can actually break. Try not to put something metal in like a screwdriver to pop these clips out as you're pulling it out, because you can end up damaging the paint. If you have a trim tool or something plastic, try and pop it in with those if needs be. If not, just pull at them and they'll come out. So you have your inner guard, your inspection trim, your bottom arm, the bumper comes off. I only have one side of it taken out, but I would recommend for a novice to take off the full bumper. When you have that out, then move on to start stripping the sump. As you can see, around the outside of the sump, there's a number of 13mm bolts. There's a stud here. There's actually 4 studs, 1 in either corner. Take out the 4 nuts, and there's a bracket for the flywheel plate. So if you take that bracket off, there's the the flywheel bracket there, it slides up in beside the flywheel here. There's two 10mm bolts, and there's a couple of 15s or 16mm bolts along with it. Once you have that out, there's a bracket that goes along with it at the back. Take that out and your sump should be ready to come down. If you're taking the exhaust manifold off, I would highly recommend using penetrating spray, you know, on a wire brush, etc, etc, taking all the wee bits and pieces off. Clean all the bolts up when you're taking it down, and put copper grease in it or some sort of lubricant when you're putting them back in. Obviously when you're doing this repair, you're sort of halfway down to doing these suspension arms. These rear suspension arm bushes are tending to go on these Fiat 500s, so if you're doing the sump, have a check at your bushes and you might be able to do their 2 repairs in one go. And then obviously when you're rebuilding the sump, you put a line of sealer around the sump, then bolt it back up in, let it set, and then obviously do the oil filter. A good idea to replace the oil filter while you're doing it. But other than that, you know, it's a straightforward job, just a lot of stripping to do it. So leave yourself a lot of time to do it, and obviously use all your safety equipment, axle stands, etc, etc. Thanks for watching.